What's happening, everybody? This is Sidewinder for Community Starcraft 2. I'm going to be broadcasting another replay that I just randomly downloaded between two Terran players. The red Terran is spawning down here in the bottom right-hand corner of Shikuris Plateau. His name is IMR, and he's going to be fighting Rotodyne, who is the blue Terran here in the bottom left-hand corner. As far as I can tell, this looks like a standard ladder match. Just looking at their APMs and noticing a little bit of worker pairing here from the red player. I would guess this is probably from a Masters League game or really high diamond, something along those lines. So we will see what kind of game unfolds here. Usually Terran versus Terrans come down to really big position battles, especially on this map, and these weeds and watchtowers are both really important as to how the game is going to unfold. You'll just see big siege tank lines versus big siege tank lines, and just very slow inching back and forth between these two Terran players on this kind of a map. So we will see what happens. The other interesting thing is that they are close by air, so the air distance is very short. We might see some Banshee harassments or drops, so we'll see what happens. Both players look like they're operating on almost the exact same schedule. The barracks went down at literally the exact same time. Both of them, both building their supply depots right at the ramp too. So if you wanted a mirror matchup, this is what you're going to get. They're both doing exactly the same thing, with the exception of this scout who's making his way out, seeing if he can find where his enemy is. And a gas is now going down for the blue Terran. So the similarities are now over. We can all breathe a sigh of relief. We're not going to be seeing the exact same thing out of both people. And interestingly enough, either a late gas here or no gas for a while from IMR. A lot of Terrans and Terran versus Terran now like to get that fast expand up, since they know that tanks won't be due for quite a while. And they can still safely perch tanks right here to ward off any pressure that might be incoming from the front door. So we will see how IMR transitions out of this. You can see he is banking his minerals and sending an SCV down there. He's going to mine something and probably jump right here. Or, yep, there we go. And start his command center as soon as he can. A little bit of a fight going on here. This red player is going to lose this SCV. Ooh, he actually starts the command center anyway and doesn't care. And he can probably just lift it up and land it right there after he's done. Oh, that SCV almost died. One more hit from the enemy SCV that would have stopped it. Of course, he would have lost a worker, putting him just a tad behind in economy, and obviously bothering him just a little bit. Checking back here in the blue Terran's base, he actually lets an SCV in, so the SCV is going to see everything that's going on here in the Terran main. So a little bit of a mishap from these two Marines who are butting up at the front door by letting him through. The other command center going up for the blue Terran Rotodyne. So interesting that they're both doing the exact same thing again. I'm sorry I said I knew. I know I said that the similarities would end, but they're going to be doing pretty much the same thing. For what it's worth, the red Terran player IMR is on a little bit of a faster schedule here. Both of them actually getting supply blocked here for just a second. Especially Rotodyne. He actually does not even have a supply depot coming up. So, well, I guess there it is. So never mind. I guess I know what I'm talking about. Supply depot's now finishing. We'll see a Marine come out of this as soon as it's done. Factory now getting started here for Rotodyne, and the same thing for the red player. Factory on the way. Both of them calling down mules from the skies in order to get a little bit more mining ready to go. Now, since this expansion is done, you would like to see him land the mule out here, but it's actually fairly wise that he didn't, because he has not lifted this off and moved it into the correct position before, because that SCV was bugging him and making it so that he couldn't plant the command center where he wanted to. So little tiny things like that are things you're going to see up in higher leagues. He still needs to lift this off. I don't know why he is taking so long to do that, or if he just flat out forgot that he got pushed out of position there. If he leaves it there, he's going to lose a lot of time, and even just these extra 2 spaces is a lot of extra mining time lost from these workers not mining these mineral patches as efficiently as they could be. There's not even a rally point set on that, so getting a little bit sloppy here from the red player's standpoint. Checking back into the blue player's base, he does have a bunker up at the front door, just like the red player. The differences in units, just a couple extra Marines. Red player has 5 extra SCVs, pretty much doing the same thing. We do now see siege mode coming down and a starport coming down for the red player IMR, so expect him to get into tanks pretty quickly, and you can see him rallying exactly to that point we were saying that makes it very safe from any sort of pressure. Siege mode also on the way for our blue player and an additional tank. Both of them just SCVing up like normal. 2 gas here in the main for the blue player and 2 gas here in the red. So again, we're seeing pretty much the same stuff out of both of them. We do see missile turrets actually going up for IMR here in the mains. Probably a little bit paranoid about Banshees, but I don't think that you're going to see many Banshees off of a fast expand build. So, and he still does not realize how far away this command center is from his mineral patches, at least ideally. So that's a little bit of a mistake. Either that or he's just really not taking this game terribly seriously. A little bit of scouting going on from these SCVs here. I'm not really sure what exactly he's looking for, except for maybe just some weird proxies, or if he's actually going to ninja expansion over here. So we'll have to keep an eye on what this SCV's doing. Checking back into the blue player's base, pretty much the same stuff going on. A factory coming up. A couple of, rather an engineering bay and a barracks also coming up. So fairly normal ramping here from the blue player. Nothing unusual going on. And I like how I have to sound so inconspicuous. There's that ninja command center from IMR. So we will see how this pays off. It would obviously be paying off a lot more, again, if this command center was in the right spot, which it's not. You probably just forgot about it. But the interesting thing about ninjaing a command center like this is that it's very exposed if it gets scouted, but the chances of it getting scouted in such an odd position are pretty low. So it just depends on the situation. A lot of people like to ninja them. A lot of people like to play safe. Obviously, if you hide something like this, it's going to be very risky, because if that gets taken down, you've already invested so much into it. Obviously, you've mined off of it. It would be a little better if you muled really hard here, so that you're not putting out so many SCVs, and if it gets killed, you're just losing mules in your command center instead of your command center and a whole bunch of SCVs. This SCV hanging out up here also, to see if any expansions are coming down. I wouldn't imagine it to happen. Checking back into the red player's base, we do see an armory coming up fairly early, probably just to keep those upgrades going so he does not fall behind. You would like to see him cancel that and put the armor upgrade on this engineering bay, otherwise this engineering bay is going to be idle for a while. Checking the APM tab, yeah, again, they're relatively high. I would expect this to be a Masters League game. I did not really check, I just kind of download whatever looks pretty good and roll with it, so that's what we're doing. Checking back to the blue player's base, not any engagements have gone on thus far. Units lost are very low. It's just going to be some losses on either end, mostly just workers and stuff like that, so not really a big deal. Both of them getting upgrades at about the same rate. Checking back over into the production, we just see this red player throwing down another command center. Wow. No idea what he is planning on doing with all this, because if he invests too heavily into this, he runs... Oh, wow. Okay, this is the bad thing about a ninja expansion, is that Rotodyne's SCV spotted all these SCVs transferring, and he could just send in a small drop and probably take care of this just fine, at least with the tank or something, because this is going to be a planetary fortress. So we will see what happens with that. IMR now moving down into the bottom, or rather this central point, so he can swing back and forth between his ninja expansion, his natural, his main, and this other command center he's putting up here. I don't know how much he's going to be investing into mining off of these, like if he's going to turn this into an orbital or to keep it as a planetary. But this is interesting, a really interesting ramp of economy here. And meanwhile, the blue player Rotodyne is just kind of hanging back, building up his forces. I don't know what kind of timing these guys are going for, as it's now 12 minutes and we have not seen any real engagements. Rotodyne is actually now putting up his own third command center. Little does he know he is behind. Well, he may know about this other one if this SCV... Well, this SCV did spot it, but it's just a question of if Rotodyne actually noticed all these SCVs transferring. It's a big clue as to what's going on up there. So, again, we'll see what happens with this game. Pretty much the same stuff coming down. Shields coming down for IMR. Vehicle weapons level 1 for their tanks both coming down. IMR just a little bit ahead, and it's a huge laundry list of stuff that's being produced for both players. A ton of SCVs. The income is going to be favoring IMR by a little bit, at least in terms of harvesters. The actual income is almost the same because he's mining more effectively off of his natural versus the other natural, where there's just a ton of SCVs just bumping into each other and whatnot. This main is getting fairly close to being mined out. I don't know why he is landing mules here, because you don't want to mine out your main very quickly if you can help it. You'd probably rather see him mule up here or right here, since these are both fresh mineral patches. There's nothing you can lose. Queuing up his SCVs 5 deep. That's just very, very unusual play here from IMR. I've not seen something so unusual in quite a while. The blue player, Rotodyne, is setting up his own expansion. He's opting not to turn that into a planetary fortress, rather going for the extra mules to keep his economy on pace with what he may suspect IMRs is on, or possibly just wants to be really greedy and get a lot of minerals out of that. So it looks like Rotodyne is gearing up for a bit of an attack here. Rotodyne is already set up down here in the bottom area. His tanks are not sieged, but Rotodyne does have control over these watchtowers. There really hasn't been very much fighting over these watchtowers, which you'll usually see in a Terran versus Terran, since positioning is so important. But in either case, this SCV is now scouting. He's going to see this expansion here from IMR, so that neither one of these players are really using many scans. He actually hasn't even scouted the natural at all. So both these players being really greedy with their scanning and their mineral income rate, and especially IMR with his extra expansions. We see a bunch of buildings going up here, a whole bunch of barracks, 4 barracks coming up here at the Ninja expansion. And oh, we did miss some really weird stuff going on. We have 2 ghost academies here in the main of Rotodyne. This is really unusual to see ghosts like this in a Terran versus Terran. We have seen time to time players will use nukes in Terran versus Terran, but it is so rare. I don't exactly know what the point of this is. Researching cloaking on the ghosts. Obviously the ghosts with their snipe ability can only really take out bio units, and we don't see a ton of bio units out of IMR, at least not enough to justify putting down a ghost academy just for that. Rotodyne now getting set up to siege some of these buildings here in the main. We'll see how IMR choose to react to this. And here we go. There's big engagement here. A bunch of these Marines actually just stimming in and getting whooped. And it's going to leave all these tanks exposed. All these tanks actually do a really good job of cleaning this up. So it's just going to be a few tanks versus a few tanks. He does have a spotting advantage. You'd like to see this Viking moving over. He's just going to go ahead and walk in with these tanks unsieged and pummel down these remaining siege tanks. And down they go. So first engagement of the game was a little bit of an odd one. Rotodyne choosing to sit right here in order to siege all this, but he lost his entire army, whereas IMR still has 6 tanks on the field, which is very important in Terran versus Terran because tanks are, number 1, so expensive, and number 2, will control such a huge portion of the map for you. But meanwhile, Rotodyne is max, or not max, but he has recreated his army, so he should not be getting pushed out too far. He's actually just going to bypass these siege tanks and come right into this expansion here. He needs to probably lift this off before all the siege tanks get their fire off, and there he goes. He finally does, and starts to move it away, but these Vikings are now getting some shots off on it. This expansion is going to go down in all likelihood, and there it goes. Kaboom! Big pieces go right through the floor for some reason. And he's going to be reestablishing... I don't know if that was planned or if that was just coincidence, but there was a command center about to be set up here, and this annoying SCV with 5 health actually blocked that from going down. So that is hilarious. That was the same SCV that built this command center in the wrong spot, so he's probably trying to redeem himself, saying that, hey, I'm worth my weight in the 50 minerals you invested. I'm going to block this command center after you destroyed it and preserve your economic lead. We do have a ghost coming out here for Rotodyne, and he's going to reset up this expansion here. Now, one thing that's interesting that I am actually a little bit surprised that he's not doing is moving this command center down to the bottom here and then rebuilding one here. The reason you want to do that is because you're going to get a lot more mining out of these minerals, and you're going to not be wasting as much time by building this command center. He's actually building an auxiliary command center, which he may actually float to this Happy Face expansion here, and he's also taking control of the middle of the map. He is gearing up for a drop with that. Well, he didn't have the tank. What are you doing? Decide on what units you want and load up. Okay, he just wants Marines, so he's going to be taking his Marines over to this expansion. This is a planetary fortress. He's going to get melted by that planetary fortress, and wisely decides to turn around, come back, and drop off his cargo. He's going to actually be picking up a couple of tanks and flying them over to, it looks like, into this base. Holy cow, there's a ton of barracks going down. What is with this game? This game makes no sense. This is 15 barracks here at his Ninja expansion. And I don't think his income really justifies having all these. Well, he has 98 harvesters, which is way more than you'd ever want. Getting into the action here, he's coming back to try to deny this. A nuke coming down. I'm sorry I missed the nuke actually in production.